Live, and that's it. Without the banner.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Science and the Paranormal. Sorry again, folks. We are having some technical difficulties with our trailer. I don't know what is going on there. Maybe we need Father Bob Bailey, who is our special guest tonight, to exercise StreamYard. Welcome back, though, to another episode of Science and the Paranormal with Dr. Yana and Dr. Elliott. We have a very special guest tonight, Father Bob Bailey. And we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Radio Network, 105.3, 107.7 FM out of New Orleans, and also on Roku TV.
Good evening, everybody.
We'll try and bring Father Bob in.
Yeah. All right, and he's with us.
Father Bob, we can see you. Can we hear you?
Finally.
Oh, perfect.
Yay.
Perfect timing. Let me properly introduce you. So Father Bob has had a distinguished career within the Catholic Church before he retired. He completed his education at Our Lady of Providence Seminary, Preparatory High School, and then Rhode Island College, where he received a Bachelor's degree in Educational Human Development. And then he pursued seminary studies at Mount St. Mary Seminary in Maryland, and he earned his Master of Divinity Degree. He was then ordained in 1993 and initially served as an assistant pastor at St. Mark's in Cranston. I do believe I went there and got holy water for my evil and Exeter case. He served similar roles at St. Brendan, Riverside, St. Elizabeth in Bristol, and St. Philip in Greenville. And prior to his retirement, he also served as a pastor at St. Maria Goretti Parish in Pawtucket. It's been a while since I've been in Rhode Island. He has also been on several different television shows: The Haunted between 2009 and 2011, Paranormal State, Confronting the Darkness, and various other YouTube, radio, podcasts, and television. And welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome. I'm so excited to interrogate you. Some people think it's an interrogation, but it is actually the friendly conversation. You look like you're in this space. With your headphones and like with the sky above your head.
Yeah, I'm just on my lounge chair.
Very nice. Well, Father Bob, we are so happy that you're with us today because we are so interested in the topic of exorcism and also the deliverance. And we want to know what is the difference between these two. And we know that you started with the deliverance and then somehow it progressed to exorcism. So what is the difference between those two, and what credentials do you need to have to perform both of those things?
Okay, well, first, I'm not an exorcist.
Oh, you're not?
No, I'm not. But I did, when I was in my younger years, I did help out as part of a team in an exorcism. But I wasn't a priest. But deliverance ministry is helping, actually setting. Can you hear reverberating?
Yeah, a little bit of feedback.
The echo.
Yeah, an echo. Sorry. Deliverance ministry would be for those people who feel oppressed, or there's an obsession of an evil spirit. The spirit has not taken over their body, but attacking from outside. Those areas I have done healing and liberation. Demonic possession is when an evil spirit or spirits take full possession of the person's body, their will, and all sorts of stuff like that. So the person is pushed aside their personality, and the evil spirit inhabit.
Looks like we lost sound here.
Can you hear me?
Oh, can hear you now.
Oh,
Yes,
there you go
yes,
again.
yes, yes. Uh-huh. So we're
If
back.
I sound like I'm stuttering, it's because of the echo.
Yeah, it is the echo. Perhaps we can do something about it because it's kind of difficult to hear.
Yeah, I don't. Is it better now?
Well,
No.
we can try. Well, yeah. We can try. We can try. So you're
Okay.
saying so the deliverance is when the person is not completely demonically possessed, and it is possible to heal and rid the person of oppression.
hmm
So, what is the prevalence of deliverance cases and the actual exorcisms?
Well, deliverance and exorcism both have been on the rise over the years. And that is because people are opening spiritual doors. And there's just a lot of opening to evil in the world. I mean, all you got to do is look at the news, you know, and there's so much evil there. But also because people are dabbling in the occult. You know, there's a high rise of doing that. People are getting their hands on things and to conjure up and all of that. And that just brings the spiritual realm in. And with that, sometimes the demonic.
Did in your time with the Roman Catholic Church, how did you find that if a practitioner came in or practitioner I should say, and came in and reported something, in their home, how did you guys receive it? We talked about this a little bit in our demonology class last night. James, Anito, and I talked about it because one of the students had asked if we, if I was to get an investigation and go to the church, how would I be perceived? And we kind of laughed because we said, well, it really depends on who you talk to. I've personally experienced both. When I was helping out with the Evil in Exeter case, I went into a Roman Catholic store to purchase some St. Benedict medals. And when I talked to, he wasn't a priest, I believe he was a brother. So when I talked to the brother and I explained why I was there and what I was looking for, he looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. And it wasn't until I told him that I was still a police officer at the time, but I told him, I'm a police officer and I'm also a parapsychologist and I'm trying to help this family. And then once I explained that, his demeanor changed. But at first, he almost looked at me like I was a nut job that just walked off the street. And then I was also telling my class that I had emailed the Archbishop in charge of all of Nova Scotia, just to let him know about my nonprofit organization, Paranormal Phenomena Research and Investigation, and said, I realize you guys are really busy doing all your spiritual ministry. And, if you have one of your practitioners come to you and say that, they think their house is haunted or whatever, and you don't have time to fully investigate it, we're nonprofit. We don't cost anything. You can feel free to contact us. The Archbishop at that time didn't even respond to me. But then when I saw that a new Archbishop had taken over, I did the same thing, sent him a formal letter in the mail. And at least he wrote back and acknowledged that he got the letter and thanked me for informing him that we exist in the province. So, like I said, it just kind of depends on who you get. What was your experience when you were working in Providence?
I went to the bishop and I gave him a book on exorcism. And I asked his permission if I could reach out with paranormal groups, because I said they want our input. And we have something to bring to the table. And if we don't, then they may get misinformation. So he basically said, fine, just don't do an exorcism without permission. And then he said, if you go into a parish to help, then ask their proper pastor.
That makes sense.
So he was
I'm sure
with
nobody wanted to step on anybody's toes. Almost like us when I was with the RCMP, it was a very paramilitary organization, so you wouldn't go do something else in someone else's jurisdiction without clearing it through the proper channels.
Right. And it's only because there was a lot of rogue ordained supposed priests, and they really don't have a full knowledge of what they're doing. They get themselves ordained, and they end up doing more. So the priest would have to know that this is a validly ordained Roman Catholic priest who's been educated on the subject.
Very interesting. We're still getting a little bit of feedback there, Father Bob. Are we able to maybe?
I know.
Are we able to maybe just try it with just the phone without the headphones? No, can't hear you at all now. We'll see if Father Bob can clear up that audio there for us, guys. He may need to use those headphones. In the meantime, let me tell you about the 2024 Halifax Paranormal Symposium while Father Bob tries to fix his audio. So if anyone is listening from Nova Scotia or Atlantic Canada or wants to come visit our beautiful province, you have got to check out the 2024 Halifax Paranormal Symposium. It's going to be held at the Halifax Tower Hotel and Conference Center on Saturday, October 12th, 2024. Tickets are on sale right now. ppri.net/tickets. And we're going to have some great guest speakers. We're going to talk about alien abduction with Chris Rakowski. I'm going to talk about law enforcement and the supernatural. We're going to have Holly Stevens talk about her experience using paranormal equipment on television, but also talk about the real science behind it. We're also going to have John Kruth come from the Rhine Research Center. He's the executive director. He's going to talk to us about electronic psychokinesis. And we have one more guest, and I am just trying to remember who the last guest is. Laura Warren. Sorry. Laura Warren is going to talk to us about mediumship and protection techniques. Father Bob, can we hear you now? He's gone. He's been delivered.
He is in space, in open space. That's how it sounded.
I think he's doing a hard reboot. We're having some technical difficulties tonight, folks. That's not uncommon with the demonic, but I don't know. I don't know if this is demonically related or just bad luck.
Well, sometimes it happens. I was just thinking about it, how easily we talk about it. And of course, like in the absence of the paranormal, it's easy to laugh about it or just correction, some jokes. But in fact, when we are faced with some evil, we can, in fact, get a little bit scared or even a lot scared, and then we won't be cracking jokes. And to tell you the truth, I was pondering that question and today, in fact, and it's quite possible that even the technologies or anything else can be just breaking, or things will not be working. I know that I had to work on myself for the past few days because things have been just absolutely weird here. I would just drop everything as if I did not have any fingers. Things would just like fall through and break, or I would just stumble on the smooth surface on the street. All those weird things would happen. So I had to take care of the problem. So Father Bob, you are back.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, nice,
And
nice,
it
nice,
sounds
nice.
good. It sounds good.
Oh, I'm almost
Magic.
afraid.
Don't move.
No, we were actually just
I
talking
know.
about. We were making a joke about. Is it the demonic trying to stop us from speaking to you, or
Oh no, I know. I heard all that.
yeah, technical difficulties? But that is a real thing. I've heard that from a lot of
Yeah.
people that do deliverance work. So James told us a few things when he was on the show about when you have a case and you're even consulting on a case, you can have interference from the demonic. Have you experienced anything like that in your years?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. You know, especially if you were doing investigations, new batteries dying right away. Um, I even fluke, car problems when you're trying to go to a place. Um, Sometimes car problems when you're coming back as retaliation. But yeah, yeah.
I had an incident once, and I'm not sure if it was attributed to the demonic, but it was interesting. I was living in Halifax at the time, and I was on the phone at the time dealing with one of the owners of the Hinsdale House, which is well-known house in the U.S. there to be
I've
haunted.
been there.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that here in a second. They were talking about having some issues, which they believe was demonic in nature, and all of a sudden there was somebody ringing my doorbell, and I assumed it was a package being delivered, so I normally don't answer it. They just leave the package on the step. But this delivery person was not going away. They were knocking at the door. They were ringing the bell. So I said to my client while I was interviewing her, I said, just hold on, excuse me. I think maybe they need a signature or something. And I put the phone down on the counter and I went down my stairs and I missed the last 3 steps and landed on my ankle. And I ended up spraining my ankle really bad. So bad that I couldn't stand up on it. I actually had to crawl to the door. I opened the door up. The delivery girl was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Here's your package." And as she's walking away, I'm so polite. Maybe it's a Canadian in me. I was like, "Thank you." And then, I had to crawl back up the stairs to get to my client and finish the interview. But some would say that possibly was because I was getting ready to dispatch 2 of my investigators to New York to go investigate. That was certainly the only kind of experience similar to that I've had.
Yeah, and normally it's natural things, but they happen at the darndest times, and sometimes with multitude at the same time. So it's not like the devil comes with a pitchfork and starts attacking you, or there's a cyclone that comes at that second. A lot of times it's just mishaps. It could be family squabbles all of a sudden erupting. It could be anything like that, and working through the natural world.
That's very interesting. So, still coming back to the deliverance and exorcism, I have a question for you.
Hmm.
In Catholic Church, you have to be appointed specifically to be able
Yeah.
to perform exorcisms. What education or training, perhaps, that you need to have in order to be able to do that? Or
Before,
just
none.
the willingness to do that?
Yeah, before there was really none. It was part of the minor orders of the priesthood, that the order of exorcists. So there is a ritual book that we have, the Roman ritual, that spells out everything. And so you were chosen by the bishop. They look at your character, they look at your holiness, they look at your health, and even maybe background, if you have some background on it. But now there is a school in Rome, in the school Regina Apostolorum, that actually does classes on spiritual battle and exorcism, because instances of exorcism are on the rise. And so bishops, you have to go be sent there. And So bishops would send the priests, even some religious, I think, sisters or brothers or whatever, or even I think some lay people that are qualified, that they want to, to learn about these things. so that they could have them. There was also a place in the United States. I don't know if there still is though, but
Really interesting. And I know in our demonology class we've talked about Rome putting on more courses for
yeah,
exorcists with the Roman Catholic.
yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yep.
Yeah, and it's over in Italy and Europe. I've read news articles saying where exorcism is on the rise. Why do you think it's a little bit different over there in Europe as opposed to over here in North America?
Because I'm just an educated guess is that because there's a lot of superstition and occult that's on the rise. People are leaving traditional religion, open themselves up to occult things, which were part of the culture, but not as much practiced as it is now. And just also because the reality of just evil in the world, people's choices allowing that to come in. It's I don't know if there's a clear cut answer, but as I say, the world that we're living in now, I mean, we're on the verge of World War III. It's just so much out there. You don't even want to watch the news, and
No, that's a
I
great
think
point.
that
My wife actually does not follow the news because I
I
do,
don't either.
and it's so depressing.
Yep,
It's so
it's
true.
true, and so I just watch the local news, and even in our own country, everything is divided. You can't agree on it. It's almost like you can't say anything. You're afraid to, that you're going to either offend or you're going to start an argument. And there's just so much angst in the world right now, So, and it's coming out in the spiritual realm too.
There really is. It's really interesting as well that I ended up getting to meet you and having you on this show because back in 2008, I became involved with Haley DeRamo's family, and we ended up co-authoring a book together, Evil in Exeter. And I know that you grew up with her mother.
Actually,
And
my sister and her were very good friends. They grew up
yeah,
together.
yeah, and she spoke extremely highly of you, and we reached out to you at the time to consult with you on the case. But I know you weren't doing the deliverance work. I believe you were working in
In the
like the
hospital.
hospital setting. But you had said something in a text to Haley that always stuck with me, and I actually use that quote on all my lectures that I do around Nova Scotia. But you had said because at the time we were describing the entity to you. And we said that it didn't have any eyes; they were just complete black eye sockets. And you had mentioned that would be considered a damned soul. And so it was really interesting. One thing that you had said, you said if it is a damned soul, you treat it like a demon anyway. Either way, they are both creatures of hell. And that quote really stuck to me because the way you had said it in the text message wasn't as if evil exists. It was like, this is your job Monday to Friday. You have no, ifs, ands, or buts about it. If it's a damn soul, you treat it like a demon anyway. Either way, they're both creatures of hell. And that's always stuck with me. And I use that quote in my lectures.
Wow, I'm brilliant. I didn't even know it.
No, it was. I found it very powerful to come from somebody that's associated with the Roman Catholic Church, just because historically, there's not many that speak about it. I know Dr. Yana was just talking with Father Gary Thomas, and he's no longer allowed to speak to the media anymore.
Really?
Yes. So unfortunately, we couldn't have him on our show. So. It's I thought it was very very unique to have you come on tonight's show.
Yeah.
And in fact, this topic of exorcism, and of course that as a word, it has a lot of prejudice against in our culture, in the Western culture, of course. But as a phenomena itself, it exists in every culture. And every culture, every religion, every spiritual current they use their own incantations, their own rituals in order to rid people of the dark energy, dark entities. And in the Catholic Church, there is this. What did you call that? The right book?
Oh,
The Roman ritual.
The Roman ritual. So there is a Roman ritual. Do you think that, in your opinion, when people do not use the Roman ritual, for example, they are from a different religion, do you think that they can succeed in ridding
Oh, I
people
think
of?
so.
And why? And why do you think that it is?
Because that would be their culture and their religious beliefs. You know, like
So you think that
I've
the
seen.
faith
Oh,
saves people?
it's yeah. I mean, the ritual helps because it's whatever your faith is, you would use that ritual. Like I've seen the Jewish ones, I've seen Eastern Orthodox exorcism prayers, and yeah, I mean, as long as you're a person of faith within the realm of your culture and religion, yeah, I think it would work absolutely.
So, in your opinion, God is one, and it doesn't matter which ways we go about this phenomena.
I think, yeah, I think sometimes there's been crossovers, like the original exorcism story was a Lutheran boy, and the Lutheran pastor tried to help him, and he thought it was something parapsychology. He was a parapsychologist, I believe, and he tried to look at it that way. And then when he realized it was something a little bit more, he said, "We got to go to the Catholics because we don't have the mechanism for this." So, and that's why they
really
sent him to the Jesuits in St. Louis. So yeah, but you know, I think whatever your belief system is, and you're working through that, I mean, I think that there have been successes. You know, even Native Americans have their own traditions.
Yeah,
Well,
we talk
speak.
about that as well in our introduction to demonology course about all the different faces that places have certain beliefs. You know, they either believe in good or evil spirits. They also have
Hmm.
versions of an exorcism practice. They might not call it an exorcism,
Hmm.
but they believe in like a spiritual cleanse right from the tribes in Africa, which is really interesting. It's touched every square inch of the earth. You know, anywhere where we live, there's belief in good and evil, which I find
Yeah.
fascinating. You had mentioned you had been to the Hinsdale House. So for anyone out there listening and not sure what the Hinsdale House is, it was a house built in the 1800s. The exact date of the construction is not well documented. Most cases back then aren't. I've run into a couple up here in Nova Scotia. It's also been called the Dandy House as well, but it is well known. A lot of paranormal teams investigate it. There's been some documentaries and YouTube documentaries on it. There's been strange noises and voices, apparitions, objects moving on their own, unexplained smells. Some people said that they were physically attacked. What was your involvement in that house, and what did you experience?
I went there at the invitation of a paranormal group, and I think one of them owned it at the time. I was trying to fix it up, and I went, and they were telling me that, oh my gosh, the priest ran out of the house, and that stuff came out of the cupboards and flew out. So I'm going, oh, okay. I went in, nothing near that. However, that being said, that doesn't mean anything because they would go dormant. If they knew who I was, they're not going to advertise. So, did I feel a foreboding in there? And I'm not one that goes by my feelings because I'm not sensitive, but I did feel some foreboding there. So I did a deliverance over the house, and I don't know what happened after that. If it helped or not, I don't remember. But
Did you get any sort of reaction while you were doing the deliverance?
I didn't, but a friend of mine who's very empathic, yeah, he felt something. But
Interesting.
again, like I don't, I don't have those gifts. So, you
What
know,
would be your most memorable case that you worked on?
my most memorable case was a young lady in the Worcester area. We were called in, me and my ministry partner at the time, uh, to this house, and they said that you know the girl was experiencing extraordinary strength, speaking in some languages, blaspheming, and all of that. So I thought it was just going to be a deliverance of somebody oppressed. So we went, and I went, me, him, and his wife, who was the case manager at the time. And on the way up there, she had some iced tea, and she's going to drink it. And she said, "Oh my God, what? It smells like urine." I go, "What?" So the husband goes, "Come on." And then he smelt it and said, "Oh my gosh, it is." I said, "Come on." So I grabbed it, I smelt it, and it did smell like urine. So I said, "Oh my God, what are we in for?" When I walked in the house, she was in a pool of urine on the bed. Uh, so even then, I didn't think much of it. So I did try to do a deliverance and healing for almost 2 hours, and then I realized with her strength, with the languages, with the voices that were coming out, I said, "Oh, this is above my pay grade. This is no longer oppression or obsession. This, I think, fits the criteria of possession." So I called the local bishop, who I knew because he was formerly a parish priest in Rhode Island, and told him about it, and he sent out an exorcist. But I
Wow.
don't know I don't know whatever happened after that, because they wouldn't talk about it.
Well,
Yeah.
But the
if you
enemy.
had a suspicion that it was an exorcism, that the exorcism was needed at the time, and you were not specifically qualified or appointed to do the exorcism, and people really needed that at the moment, could you have
Mhm.
performed that, or do you think
Well,
that
I
there are
think I sort of,
consequences? Hmm.
I think I sort of did that in that
Hmm.
case, because I knew it was very formidable, but it just wasn't helping. So I knew I needed something, it needed something more powerful. I didn't do the solemn rite because the solemn rite should be in Latin, and I didn't have that book with me. I just had
Well,
what I used.
Well, if you said, Father Bob, that every culture uses their own rights and they use their own
Mhm.
language, how come do you think that you had to use those solemn rites that are in Latin in order to make the entities obey?
That's a good question, and I don't really know the answer. I only know, and exorcists will attest to it. The demons do not like Latin. They do not like when you pray in Latin. And I've seen it. I was praying and I did some Latin prayers over an individual. He was not possessed. He was oppressed, and he kept saying, "Stop that language! Stop that language! Stop!" And I'm going like,
Yeah.
"No,
No.
no."
Again.
Um, but maybe because it's an ancient and a precise language. I don't know, but they do react when you use Latin. I just had a case this weekend where the entity was drawing me into a room and saying it was a human soul, and then I bound it to tell me the truth, and it was an inhuman. When I lifted up, I have a relic of the true cross. When I lifted that up toward that area, the REM box went nuts, and I started praying in Latin, and then it shut off.
Are there cases when those entities are not afraid of the holy relics?
I'm sure there must be. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure in the in some exorcism rites. cases where, depending on the power of the demon and who the demon is,
So that would
you
define
know.
the success of the ritual, the
Or yeah,
powers.
I mean, 'cause sometimes it's, well, when it is possession of a person, it never usually is a one-shot deal. Sometimes it can take several, sometimes it can take months, sometimes it can even take years. Father Gabriel Moth will attest to that. And it just has a persistent. And the key is to find the name. Once you find the name and you get him to reveal, then you have power over him. And that's, or it. And that's when the tables begin to turn.
I see so many Christian churches that are not willing to even come to this topic of the demonic, or God forbid, even to call it demonic, to the topic of darkness. And that's what they call it, darkness. And they are
Mm-hmm.
warning people in the church not even to come close, not to even say anything, not to even
Yeah.
go into that area at all. And it is, in my understanding, that they themselves cover up the evil that is happening, pretending probably to for the life to be this the world in rose tinted glasses, and that is, I
Yes,
believe, that is a dangerous thing to do.
yes, it's because we've come into an age where they're almost embarrassed about the notion of demonic, and say, we live in an enlightened age now, and it's all psychology. And yes, this is the unique thing about the Catholic Church. Before an exorcism can be done, there has to be a full medical exam, psychological exam, so to be sure that it's not some kind of psychosis or other things, because if you're masking those and dealing with totally spiritual, you're not helping that person. You're making it actually worse. So before something will be done, which in other traditions they run right to the demonic, and sometimes they coexist. But yeah, and I just think that in the 60s and 70s, even in seminaries, they ran away from the notion of the demonic and used a lot more psychology. And psychology is good, but there's also another reality. But now, I think the younger generations coming up with the priesthood, like my seminary was a traditional one, so we learned about that. Thank God.
So do you think that there is a tendency now not to even raise this topic in educational institutions,
Um, I think
religious
they're very,
education institutions?
yeah, yeah. I think people are being very careful because, like Elliott was said, when you approach that brother, he looked at you with three heads. I mean, there's a lot of unstable people claiming, they're claiming demonic, they're claiming apparitions, they're claiming locutions, and I'm a big proponent of apparitions, authentic ones, but we have a lot of people today, and so that kind of ruins it for everyone. When as a priest you face someone who's, that this is not a spiritual problem, it tends to ruin it for when there is something,
Yeah,
you know.
I can certainly attest to the fact, running a nonprofit paranormal organization, that we occasionally come across individuals that are claiming to have a demonic haunting, that upon doing our background check and our interviews and going through all our forms, we ask medical questions as well, mental health questions, medication questions, um, all important stuff, because we actually have had to ask them to go have a pharmacist do a medical med review, because they're either underdosed or overdosed, or there's drugs that are interacting negatively with each other, causing hallucinations, that we've actually caught and helped individuals. So
Hmm.
you do come across those cases, and like you said, it's trying to decipher, is this just mental illness because they will talk and fixate about the demonic, or
Mhm.
is it a mix because there can be people with mental illness but also experiencing a haunting, and then or is it a legitimate demonic haunting? It's very tough, and you need to. It's not something I don't think amateurs that have no experience or
You're
training
right.
should be dabbling in.
You're absolutely right. And you know, and I think the thing is too that I know I had a case too where it was a very devout family. They had a shrine in their house. They had like a 10-foot statue of the Virgin Mary, and it's like, and they pray every day. And I'm going like, how can that be? I went around. I said a mass in the house. But then coming to find out that there were certain things about, I don't understand these, but um, giving off like some appliances, giving off some, I don't know, rays or something that can make you feel like you're being watched.
Yeah, probably
Electromagnetic fields.
electromagnetic
Yeah,
radiation. Yeah, which we know
yeah,
through laboratory studies that it can
right.
cause people to experience, feelings of being watched. It can cause them to see apparitions.
Yes. And then also there was some guilt in the guy from the past. So uh, thank God that I finally convinced, and the wife was 100% behind me. But told me you need to get psychological help. You need to get new appliances. We've already blessed the house, and that will make you fine. If you don't do all of these, you're not going to get resolved. And unfortunately, people today, when not all people, but some, um, they want you to come in magic and then take it away, and they don't want to have to do anything. It's like, oh no, 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 no. We can help, but you got to keep that door shut. You got to be people of faith now because you're touched by evil. So this is not just all on us. But people don't want that. I went into a house, I won't mention where, but I went there a couple of times and then said, no, I'm not, because I know that they were looking for notoriety. But I gave them medals, exercise medals, to bury on the four corners of the property to seal it. I came back the next time, they were still there on the shelf.
So what did
Came
you
back the
do?
third time,
Did you
didn't come back
abandon the
anymore.
case? Good.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. It wasn't an easy ride to get there. So,
Well, not just that, but you're volunteering your time. In most
yeah,
instances, you're not being compensated for doing this
no,
work.
never,
You give
nope.
the client a certain amount of homework, same as I do as a paranormal investigator. I ask
Hmm.
one simple thing of them. I ask them to keep a log and record anything that they think's paranormal with the date, the time, and the location. And if they are
Yeah,
unable to do a simple task like that, how can they expect me to ask all my workers or my volunteers to take time off work, possibly, or give up their day with their family, their day off with their family, and travel and pay the expenses out of their own pockets, when somebody can't do a simple task? And I know you guys give them homework to do as well. It could be reading certain prayers that you've given
yes.
them, or, take a bath in salt and some holy water, simple things like that. And if somebody's not willing to do that, it
Mhm.
makes our job a lot more difficult to.
Well, it's the
And
same
and
thing
even,
with
I was just gonna say, even in the house, to like when there's clutter, that reads to the other world, the other side, chaos, and the negative entities thrive on chaos. So I would tell them, you need to clean your cellar, you need to tidy up your room, you need to brighten the room, get some nice curtains, get some nice paint, positive music, stuff that will help flowers out. You know?
But then again, it took you 3 times to come in order to decide that you are no longer going to be back to that place. Do you think
Yeah.
that it's easier to just realize it from the first time if the people
No,
are not
yeah,
willing to work on their?
Well, no, because I would come back the second time and realize that they didn't do it. No, I only give two now. Yeah,
To
yeah. If I find that they haven't done it, the only way I know is when I came back and saw that, saw
yeah,
the evidence. Yeah.
because even in psychotherapy, the therapists are not allowed even to provide their services, even ethically, if the person is not even willing to work on themselves. And why? Because then nothing is going to stick to him. Nothing is going to be changed at all. And unfortunately, a lot of people are just like willing just to come. They are willing to show up uh, asking for help, but nevertheless, they don't want to do the job.
Right. I had one person, a good guy, I think in Cranston, and we went to bless his house and all that, but he sort of was embracing the whole notion that his house was haunted, and had these things, and he would come out and it would talk about. I said, "You have a kid." I said, and I know he was talking about it in front of the child, and I was there. I said, "Don't do that. Don't expose these young people to this kind of stuff at that age. I mean, you're doing more harm than good." But again, hmm, he really didn't listen 100%.
Well, the people usually who are looking for this kind of sensationalism and attention to themselves, they have not really gone through the horrifying experience of the negative energies, demonic presence for that regard. And if they did, they wouldn't be so welcoming and open
Hmm.
to this kind of experience or even joking about it.
Oh yeah, I was joking with Katrina Weidman and Heather Taddy when I was on Paranormal State. We were at a location and we ended up got called to another place, like hours away, to help someone, a young girl, and it was a famous episode of Paranormal State. And we get there, and the former clergyman who was there said she's possessed. Well, after spending time there, it's like, no, she wasn't possessed. It was the attention, and she would come in and out of possessions, quote unquote. Like, no, I'm sorry.
That
And,
that's
and,
that's something
and
that's something paranormal investigators face as well as individuals that have they either obsessively think about it, which I know that's one thing that both demonologists and parapsychologists tell clients
mhm.
is to not put your energy and your focus into that. Ignore it. If you're hearing those footsteps, try and ignore it. Don't pay it any attention. But then there's also those cases where you guys are there to try and do the deliverance work, but the individual, may be a loner, may almost form
Yeah,
almost like a Stockholm syndrome with the demonic and say that they want them gone, but not really want them gone and actually want them
that
present.
was more or less the case there. Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And
True.
trying to tell the parents she needs psychological. Well, she didn't want to go, and it's like you're not helping. You're not helping the matter.
No,
You need
no,
to do that.
In our world, gentlemen, when we are almost forced to be good people and to help each other and be benevolent, I think in this kind of a culture, it's really difficult to exist because then are looked down upon, and you criticize, you are judged. And I believe it is absolutely important to say no, because if people are not willing to be helped, if they're willing to stay in the same situation, let them be, because they have to go through their own experiences in order to learn their own lessons.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. There's just not much more that you can do, you know. And it's sad. It reminds me of the gospel with the rich young man, you know. And Jesus says, "Sell you what you have, and then come follow me." And he couldn't do it.
We have
And
a
We got a great
yes,
question here for
question.
you, Father Bob. Lynn asked, what do you think about what would happen if somebody passes away while still possessed. I guess almost like the Annalise Michelle case.
Yeah. I honestly don't know. I don't know. Not being an exorcist myself, I would tend to if the person died, the demon would leave, obviously, and that person would be restored. I mean, dead but restored. Um,
But then at the same time, there are generational curses. So
yes, I.
perhaps if this is the case, if the person who is possessed dies, perhaps I'm just hypothesizing that it can stay
Mhm.
with the soul, or perhaps just stick to the family.
That's possible. That's possible. Yeah, I do believe in generational curses, but I also believe that they're easy to remedy. You have to have the will to do that, and you have to be able to say, I'm not letting this affect my life anymore. Curses. So, you know, I've dealt with generational curses in doing healing of the family tree and generational masses. And for instance, like I'm just trying to think. I'm Italian, so on my mother's side, so the
How
Malocchio. Okay.
surprising! How surprising! Absolutely.
I think we were just talking about that
Yes.
every good person involved in deliverance seems to have an Italian background.
Yeah. But even if they say they don't believe in all of those curses, it's almost in their DNA of who they are. So if someone puts that malocchio on, there are people who do feel it. I mean, I've had friends and stuff that have been affected. So you have to, it's mind over matter, and that you have to say, I am not letting this curse affect my life. You know, I'm going to be free of that. So, but
The
that's my own
we're
opinion.
we're getting close to the end of the show already. Feels like we're just getting started. You're all listening to Science and the Paranormal live, reporting from the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM. Father Bob Bailey, when we talk about true symptoms of the demonically possessed, a lot of different phenomena pops up, such as unexplained
Hmm.
physical strength, the change in voice. Vomit seems to be very common
Hmm.
in this. Have you ever? I've read cases where the possessed has puked up items. Even in other cultures. So in the hoodoo culture, I've read
Hmm.
cases where somebody has puked up snakes. Have you
Hmm.
come across anything unusual in your time?
No, not of that. But yes, that does happen. I know some of the great exorcists have talked about that, and actually they showed it in The Rite. If you saw that movie,
Yes.
The
Yeah.
Rite, which is an excellent movie on exorcism. Uh, but yeah, the other thing is languages that they couldn't have known, knowing things that they could not, occult knowledge that they couldn't have known by any other way, except that. So those are the some of the sign points that the Roman ritual gives us to look for with
Have
that.
you another phenomena is levitations. Have you ever seen an object levitate or a
I
person levitate?
wish, I wish,
Yeah,
no.
I haven't either in 27 years, but I have witnessed dematerialization and rematerialization of items.
Yes, that I do. I haven't seen them disappear in front of me, but I have seen like, okay, this thing was not here before. I came
Right.
back and it was there.
Same here. I've
You
never
know.
seen it like actually disappear, but I've seen, like you said, something that was in one place. In fact, in Evil and Extra, I talk about a bracelet that was on my wrist that had a scripture on it, and it got switched with the homeowner. and we know that it wasn't us. It wasn't like we both took them off and put them on a counter and grabbed the wrong one. It literally switched from our wrist. Didn't feel anything, didn't see anything, but it happened.
Right. And unfortunately, my experience has been, again, I'm not dealing with demonically possessed, so it's mostly residential infestation. When the priest comes in, it doesn't do the same thing it does with the homeowners. I wish it did. The only thing I can say, I was at a house where there was demonic activity. When I was blessing the rooms, all of a sudden the rocking chair started rocking on its own. So I looked at it and I went, "Oh, okay, that's nice." And I just, threw holy water at it. But for the most part, no, it goes dormant when the priest is there because it doesn't want to do the battle. It doesn't want to leave.
That is absolutely the case. Now, since you asked the question about levitation, it made me recall the interview that Mel Gibson is in fact was. He was in some sort of an interview, and I forget who he was giving the interview to, but he said at the very beginning when he just started his career at Hollywood, and he still didn't know much what was happening there. He, in fact, was in a room with one of those well-established actors, and he was just sitting in the room by himself, away from the crowd. But the host who owned the house, who was an established actor at the time, and he didn't mention who he was, he said that he entered the room and he didn't walk toward me. He said he essentially flew in the air, levitated. Well, now that you're
Wow.
saying that, levitated. And he said that scared me so much. And I was never
Yeah.
there. And I started pondering the question, what is happening, in fact, in Hollywood? And where do people get their fame? And we know that he made so many great movies. And I, in fact, believe him when he said that, because, again, like it was at the very beginning of his career. And he wasn't looking, during the interview, he was already established actor. He wasn't looking for any sensationalism or attention to his persona. And he was mentioning this levitation. So do you
Oh, I
think
never
that
heard that.
Hollywood?
I didn't
Yeah.
know that either. I know he directed the
Mhm. Yes.
Passion Christ.
Yeah, and there was a lot of stuff that happened on set there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Other movie stars have reported strange things happening too when they film movies about the demonic. I know Jennifer Carpenter said when she was filming The Exorcism of Emily Rose that staff were waking up at 3 a.m. They would hear knocking noises. I know Ryan Reynolds said he'll never do another horror movie again after doing the Amityville Horror. They experienced some things on set as well.
Even
Very,
the original Exorcist movie, stuff happened. They had
that's
to have a
right.
priest come and bless. Yeah.
Even the Poltergeist
Yep.
movies, which didn't deal with the demonic, but dealt with an evil entity, they ran into
Mhm.
some issues as well. I know the little girl ended up passing
She
away
died.
of
Yes.
cancer, and
Hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
they had some horrible things happen. I was going to ask you, we're running out of time, but have you had any incidents where you've shown up at a house and you've got some religious blessed items or maybe some holy water, and you've had the person that's being oppressed by the demonic be able to tell which items are blessed and which aren't, or anything like
Mm,
that? Or would that fall more
no,
on the possession side?
I don't know. It might with oppression too. I don't know, but definitely it would probably be more with possession. But no, that hasn't happened to me. Except I did do the old trick of giving somebody water with holy water in it and having them drink it. So, but that case ended up being she was very emotionally disturbed. So it didn't take me more than 10 minutes to see that. But no.
Interesting. Have you ever? I know we hear the language of Latin being spoken quite a bit in these cases. What about Aramaic language? Have you ever come across that?
No, but I wonder if some of the Eastern rite of the church in their rituals might use Aramaic. I think it's because of the ancient language that's what it is. That's the only thing I can come with the Latin. It's an ancient language, and we've been using that ancient language to fight combat evil for centuries. So maybe that's why the other the demonic forces recognize it.
One last question for you before I ask your contact information for any of our listeners out there that might have a question for you. When you would do an investigation, when you work for the Providence Diocese, what would happen after you do that investigation? Do you fill out a report, and where does that report go?
No, actually, I didn't work for the diocese. They already had an occult awareness ministry there. I just had my own group, PWSM, at the time, and so the report just stayed with us.
Report would stay with you. Do you have any knowledge what would happen, like if somebody from the diocese went out and did an investigation? I know there's been lots of cases here in Nova Scotia where they sent representatives of the church to investigate our two really popular poltergeist cases, but of course the records have never been seen because the church takes that back, and they're not like a government agency where we can do requests for information and get a copy of those reports.
Right. I don't know that I don't know.
I would love to get access to that Vatican archive. I am sure they got some amazing tales in there. Father Bob, where can people get in touch with you? If they have any questions to ask you or want to learn more about what you're doing.
I'm retired, so I'm sort of coming out of retirement to kind of reestablish. So right now I'm just at the stage of rebuilding. So what I can do is once I'm established a little bit more, I can give you the information, and maybe you can share that with the listener.
Absolutely. Anyone that wants to get in touch with Dr. Yana or I can email us at scienceandtheparanormal@ppri.net or visit our website at bio.site/scienceandparanormal.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for being a guest tonight, Father Bob Bailey. We will definitely have to have you back because I think we only scratched the surface of your experience. And
I'm so glad the reverberation was gone.
We just had a little bit of demonic interference at the beginning.
And when you're coming down for a beer?
Soon. I'm hoping.
Okay.
We'll get together soon.
All right.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Nice meeting you, Father Bob, and we will be seeing you again. And good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us live. You are the reason why we are here. So good night, everyone. Good night, Dr. Elliott, and good night, Father Bob. Good night, everyone. Have good dreams.